gospel is probably the most challenging gospel of a real Christian. That is, a real Christian receives God's love first, and then in relationship to his brothers, he doesn't wait to be loved. He gives first love to his brothers. The early Capuchins understood this, and the early Capuchins were very much loved because they took care of people who were sick and were careful to show love for them, this first love. About 100 years after the Capuchins, there was a bubonic plague in Europe that lasted from 1629 to 31. And the friars in Milan took care of the sick in their hospital, and all the friars died. In face of the coronavirus, the Capuchin friars tried again to be helpful for those in need in Italy, and they were forbidden to do that. They only wanted officials to help. The instinct of the friars in Italy was to go and repeat our history. You may not know this, but we have had in our province friars who took care of plague victims and died. They were in China in 1931 and 1929. The first was Gabriel McCarthy. He died in 1929. He was from the Herman area. He was very bright and extremely intelligent. And he studied in Rome, and his professors wanted him to stay in Rome, but the province wanted him to come and be in the United States and do his wonderful things. I'd like to read a little bit from his obituary that you would understand what a wonderful man he was. He volunteered to go to China. And at that time, at the time he was there, a plague hit China. 2.2 million people died at that time. Sigmund Kratz, our provincial, wrote this: he was young and hopeful. He was hopeful of heart. His mental endowments were far beyond his ordinary. Small wonder that his death knell realized that the soil of China would be richer in converts for having harbored the remains of a man like Gabriel. He was the stuff of which saints are made. This is one of our men, as saints are made. Deeply humble, he seemed all unconscious of his own gifts. For many years, he was never free from pain. He suffered from incessant, painful headaches, yet went about his work cheerfully and rarely complained. The smile never left his face. He always had a kind word. Not one of his brethren will remember ever having heard a harsh or unkindly word. He died at the age of 36 in China from the plague. We have another friar, too, who died from the plague, and his name is Agatha Rolf. He also was outstanding. He died because an epidemic of typhus came to China, and he died in 1929. Agatha had asked his superiors to return home as his own health began to fail, but when the plague stalked over the land of China, once again the missionary considered it his duty to remain and care for the stricken people. He was called by Sister Death on this day in 1931. A second Capuchin who gave his life from our province. The third Capuchin was Rudolf Blockinger, but he didn't die. He made a vow to go, never to come home, because he was a missionary to China, but he went to Australia when he died. And I have a connection with Rudolf, because all the years I was provincial, I went to confession to Father Cletus, who was his brother. Brothers, I don't know whether it would ever be called if they look for volunteers to go and help, if the health profession people are overwhelmed. I don't know that the call to some friars might be to go and volunteer and risk of your life. I don't know. But we come from a group of brothers who did that. That's history we cannot pass by.
Amen. Amen.